So today we are preparing a load to load into the Globemaster C-17 aircraft. We're going to see us loading various pieces of equipment, most notably the Chinook helicopter that we're sending over to Africa in support of our contribution to Op Presence. In addition to that, we'll be loading passengers along the side. You'll see the experts here at 2 Air Movement Squadron apply lashing techniques with various pieces of equipment to restrain for forward forces and all the forces that can be expected to be impacting the freight during flight. So we do very stringent safety measures to ensure that the aircraft is safe both on the aircraft itself and both on the passengers and cargo in the aircraft. Any flight that the Canadian Armed Forces takes on is a very complex process that has a lot of various people on the involved in the process. The Wing Chief here has a very interesting saying in that each piece of freight that goes overseas has 1 million fingerprints, and that's true here. We have folks from the Canadian Joint Operations Command in Ottawa, the 1 Canadian Air Division headquarters in Winnipeg. For the Chinooks, we have 450 Squadron in Petawawa, as well as supply technicians, traffic technicians. We have 500 series technicians. A lot of people get involved. So the first thing is identifying that the freight needs to be overseas. So the mission planners in CJOC and Winnipeg, they'll look at the mission that Canada has taken on and say, these are the capabilities that we need in order to do the job that the government has given us. So that'll go through an entire what we call operational planning process, and that runs concurrently at a bunch of different levels. Once it's been identified what we need, we have folks here, such as the Task Force Movement Officer, which kind of highlights the priorities. So our contribution to Africa is several flights. So we have to sequence our flights so that the right gear and the right people go to the right place at the right time.
So when this Chinook came in from Petawawa, it was flowing in from Petawawa. At that point, then they started removing parts of the aircraft in order for us to package it up and put it on the C-17 to move it. So what you see behind me is kind of the basics of the helicopter itself. Inside the helicopter, they put as many pieces in there as they can, meaning the blades themselves, tools, support equipment for that particular helicopter. There are a few other items behind me as well. They've got the transmission sitting on a cart, and that transmission would support the rear rotor. So all these items that you see here will be loaded onto that C-17, and we'll be winching most of the items on and putting them in place and securing them down to the floor of the C-17. Loading into the C-17, as I've never done one of these myself before, we're probably in the neighborhood of about 3 or 4 hours before the unit gets, the helicopter gets pulled on, as well as all the other equipment that belongs to that flight.
So in addition to the Chinook, we're also going to send some of the equipment that's required for the Chinook to operate. That's some of its spare parts, some of the tooling required to fix the aircraft. One of the pieces that's often forgotten is that the people we're also sending, they have baggage to bring. And they have a lot of extra baggage because they're going into an interesting part of the world, so they have to bring in a lot of their special equipment. So you'll see some of their personal equipment and military equipment so they can do their job when they hit the ground. But most of the equipment is aircraft spares and specialty equipment that the Chinook will require to do its aeromedical evacuation job that it's doing in Africa.
But everything will be on that aircraft to make this a unit that will come off at its destination, be put back together, and be put to use.